What is up, my people? Drew Henley here, and you're watching Upstate 208.
Alright guys, getting ready to go for a rip, and I just got this thing reflashed. Factory had to do a reflash, and I moved my handlebars forward. So if you look down here on these bikes, I imagine the KTMs and Huskies are the same way. There's a couple different positions for your bar mounts to mount in, and so from the factory they came in the back position, so I moved these things forward. I would say maybe about an inch forward. So I'm gonna see how that works.
Alright guys, I'm here at the trailhead and I opted to ride up to this thing because the road is terrible, but I am about 15 or 20 minutes away from my house out a place called Hayden Creek, and it's actually fairly close to where I was riding on my last video. It's just from a different entry point, and I don't come out here a lot. Probably the fourth or fifth time maybe I've been out here, but this trail is sweet, and it's got a good mix of like fast and flowy, and there's also some good technical stuff towards the end of this loop. So my plan right now is to head out and just do a loop like I did the other day. I believe I'm 15 or 20 miles out to my destination, and luckily today I avoided the logging operation. So I just went and got my bike reflashed. If you have a new 2022 Gas EC250, you may want to check with your dealer and see if you need a reflash, because they called me and said that they needed to do this from the factory. So I did not get any details on it as far as what the flash was about, so I'm kind of waiting to hear back. I can update this if I find out exactly what it is, but I didn't notice anything riding. I don't know, I'm only 2 or 3 weeks into having this bike, so I don't know that I'm comfortable enough or know it inside and out enough to really know if I'm feeling anything different. So that being said, it wasn't anything obviously like dramatic, so I'm assuming it had something to do with perhaps the mixture or something like that. I don't know, but regardless, she's running real good, doing real good here. So this thing is real happy in third gear, I've found. I think most of what you're going to see here is in between second and third, and there's a little few blips of probably fourth gear when I get on like the four-wheeler trails and stuff like that, but as you can see, it's just super crusty and dry out here, and we definitely looking forward to fall and some moisture out here. So okay, so suspension is what is on my mind right now. This bike handles great. I mean, it's not like I'm like I just can't handle the thing because the suspension's just so out of whack. I mentioned this in another video, but I weigh about 160 pounds before I put my gear on, so this bike is pretty much from the factory dialed in, set up for me, sprung and valved and whatnot to accommodate a guy my size. So I'm lucky for that. That leaves me going to the clickers and adjusting my forks and my shock, and it takes a lot of watching videos and reading and just doing your research to really, as well as experience, I believe, to really be able to tell what adjustments you need to make based off of what you are feeling the bike doing underneath of you. And I think this is a very, very important piece of knowledge to hold as a guy that rides dirt bikes, whether you're on the track and or out here in the woods. So that is where I fall short. And so I can relate to somebody that knows suspension, like what my bike is doing or what it's not doing that I want it to. But my problem is I don't understand fully how to compensate for that in adjusting my clickers. And the one thing that I've learned is what you are feeling at the bike is oftentimes counterintuitive to the adjustments that you need to make on the bike. There's some really good videos on YouTube. Rocky Mountain ATV and MC have some good ones. There's several others that give you a very good, like, overall basic understanding of what the clickers are doing. And that, I understand what my compression and rebound are doing. I still fall short, though, in understanding the correct way to adjust those according to what I'm feeling the bike do. So I wish I had some magical thing that I could say or tell or teach people, but the only way that I've honestly been able to figure out how to get my suspension set up is by riding my bike and testing it. So I would say the biggest thing to do is not be scared of your clickers. A lot of people, I think, are just nervous to goof with them too much. And that being said, you don't want to just start going nuts with them without keeping track of what you are doing on each clicker. So, you know, this bike, like I've said, is pretty new to me, so I didn't do anything to it before I started riding it. I left it completely stock, and from the factory, they come right in the middle of the road on all of their settings. So I rode it, and the first thing I did was start lowering the compression a little bit in the forks, just to see what it did. And as soon as I did that, I went down probably, I think I went like 4 or 5 clicks softer on the compression in the forks. And what I noticed is, yes, the forks were very soft, but they were very spongy, like pogo stick style is the best way I could describe it, like an old Buick that is, needing to have the struts or the shocks replaced. And so it's, while I like the softness of that, I think that that's wrong. It's easy, in my opinion, to chase that soft, plush feel by just, softening up your compression. But the experience, the research that I've done and the reading and checking everything is that actually may be counterintuitive, because it's lowering the forks down, where they're riding at, and therefore that's lowering the available stroke that I have to soak up the bumps. So, you guys, I by no means am going to proclaim that I've got this figured out, but I guess my general point here is that I think it just takes adjusting it and screwing around with it. So what I've done in the past and what I'm planning to do on my next ride out with this thing is I'm going to go and find a trail, a section of trail that's maybe a quarter to a half mile long that has a lot of varying obstacles, and really that has the obstacles where I really want my suspension to perform for me. I think when you're riding woods, you got to be careful, to try not to set your suspension up, specifically for one obstacle, because as you guys know, we encounter all sorts of different things. Like this trail right here is pretty fast and flowy trail. So, like this trail, I am geared towards wanting my suspension to handle the chatter well. And what I mean by that is like your braking bumps or your acceleration bumps coming out of corners, as well as rocks and tree roots and things like that when you're moving along at a good pace. So if I go and just completely dial my bike into handling these characteristics, it may not handle other slow moving obstacles well, or when I get into the more, you know, hard enduro stuff that I get into, the bike may not handle that very well. So again, I guess going back to how to set your suspension up, this is an ongoing debate amongst everybody who rides dirt bikes. It's hard to get them set up. Having a professional help you is by far the best way to go. But for the guy that can't afford that, or the guy that just wants to try and figure it out, I think that the best route to take is just getting comfortable with moving those clickers around. You want to take note of where you're starting at, where's your starting point, and I forget the guy's name on Rocky Mountain, but he hit home with it, and I like to do this too, and that is, don't be afraid to make like big changes. If you're just moving your clickers like one click and then going and testing it, it's going to be really, really difficult to like feel that adjustment. So I have found that word of advice to be very helpful. You go out, you find a spot to ride that's got varying different obstacles and things in it where you want your bike to perform well, and you keep hitting that same section. Don't avoid the gnarly spots. Don't go slow, you know, through it. To just hit it like you would hit it when you are wanting to rip through it as fast as you can, and continually do that. Go through it, and based off of what you're feeling, you know, make the adjustments that you think you need to. So if you think that you're too stiff, then soften up your compression a little bit. You know, go 3 or 4 clicks with your compression, and then go back through that same section and hit it again. And you should be able to tell a difference in that amount of clicks on your adjustment. So based off of what you're feeling, maybe you need to just back it off a click or two, and that'll be in your happy spot. Do the same thing with the shock, and as well as like with the rebound on both the forks and the shock. That is the only way that I've ever been able to really get my bike dialed in. They come, and like I said, this bike is pretty dang good. I just know that it can be better based off of giving it some input off of what my riding preference is. And we all have different riding preferences. Some of us may sit down more, may stand up more, maybe more aggressive, less aggressive, and just the general way that we handle the bike, as well as, you know, each bike's characteristics. I was talking, you know, when I first started this video about how I moved the handlebar position forward. That can change things. You know, you're moving the point at which the pressure from the rider is on those forks. So I have to believe that that would make a difference in how things handle and how the bike feels and stuff like that. And I will say, after this ride and testing the handlebar position being forward, I did like that more. I tend to, I think, stay pretty forward on the bike when I'm standing up. I'm a relatively tall and skinny dude. I'm about 6'1", and I weigh about 160 pounds, so I got long, like, gangly arms. And my last bike actually had bar risers on it, and everyone would always ask me about it, and honestly they were on there when I bought it, and I liked it, and I got used to it, and it was just, I liked having them on there. This bike, I don't know how it compares as far as handlebar height goes, comparing it to my other bike, but I'm comfortable with where things are at here, and I did ultimately decide that I like the handlebars in that forward position. I think it just helps me be a little bit more forward on the bike, and that tends to be, I just am comfortable in that spot there. So yeah, other than, you know, going through and making modifications to the clickers, I don't really foresee me needing or wanting to do a whole lot more to this bike. It's possible that I might have it valved, or at least just, you know, I don't know what all a suspension guy would do. I don't think it needs to be resprung or anything like that based off of my weight, but I may consult, see if there's anything they can do to just help butter me up a little bit more. But before I do that, I want to goof around with my clickers and just see if I can get it to a point where I feel really comfortable in all this terrain. Another thing too, is you'll never be 100% just have your suspension work perfectly in every single scenario. It's just never going to work. Suspension just doesn't work like that. So you got to try and find the middle of the road for the type of riding that you do most often, and just be happy with it. And I think what I was talking about earlier as far as getting comfortable with making adjustments on your clickers, I think the more you screw around with that and get comfortable with the way those adjustments affect the bike, that you get a lot more comfortable with making adjustments on the fly. So if I'm going to go take this bike out to the track, I'm obviously going to crank up the compression a little bit and stiffen that up if I'm hitting jumps and doing that kind of stuff. And so, you know, I think you'll learn by doing that over time how these adjustments affect the handling characteristics of the bike. So anyhow, I hope that's helpful for somebody out there. If it's not, sorry about babbling on about it, but suspension is complicated, and every time I feel like I've got an understanding of how it works, I dig into the internet, I start looking through everything, and then I find myself feeling, you know, confused again, or like that I was wrong. And so I always kind of circle around to the same thing. Go out, find a section of trail that's gnarly, that has a lot of the things where you want your suspension to perform for you, and just keep hitting that thing and making adjustments until you get it to where it feels really good. That's about all I can say about that. So back to the ride here, just ripping along. This trail is just so much fun, fast and flowy. I definitely like the fast and flowy stuff, and this trail does have a few sections of it where it gets a little bit slower and a little bit more technical. There's some hill climbs, there's some super rocky sections, and so I think it's a great trail for just conditioning. It's great. It's actually a great trail for screwing around with your suspension. There's a lot of like braking and acceleration bumps coming in and out of stuff here, and so I think it's a great way to see, you know, where your compression and rebound are, and goof around with that as well. So again, this is fairly close to where I live, and we are just extremely lucky in North Idaho that we have just a ton of access to Forest Service land that's just all over right on the outskirts of town here. So it's easy to get to, it's very accessible, and we have a very good group of riders around here who take a lot of pride and spend a lot of time and energy out maintaining our trails and clearing them. And I know a lot of guys that go out with chainsaws regularly and clear stuff up. We have a local riding group called Pantra, and I know that they're very active in our community, not only just the riding community, but our community in general. And so I'd just like to, you know, extend those guys a big thank you, and you know, just let them know that I appreciate it. It's noticeable. I realize their efforts, and I commend them on that. So, and that goes for you know, everyone that is in the dirt bike scene. I can definitely admit that I fall short on being involved in some of the, you know, political stuff of it, as far as protecting our trails and, you know, doing my part to try and help keep what we have here. So what is up, y'all? This that gal gave me the one finger, like one more behind us, and I wasn't sure if she was referring to like another one that's down this trail, or the guy that was pulling up behind him, and maybe she didn't see him. So here for the next couple minutes, I was kind of riding on edge, just wondering if there really was another person coming. So I gave it a few minutes of taking it easy, and then realized that was probably what happened. She just didn't see her buddy pulling up behind her. So always good to see people out. And so again, going back to, you know, just being involved with it, I am very respectful of our trail systems and the rules, and you know, all of the things that come along with it, and I think that we all should be. I think it's important, and I think that it's you know, if you're going to be someone that rides a lot, I think it's very important that you set a good example, and you know, follow the rules and do your part to make sure you're not screwing up, you know, the access that we have. And it's an ongoing battle that we have to deal with. And so I will try and make an active attempt to be a little bit more involved in that where it's possible, and just make sure I'm doing my part, because I know it's important, and I appreciate all that do that. So here we are starting to get into some of the rocky stuff, up and down some hills. We got a bunch of like granite sticking out, as well as loose rocks on top of the dirt. There's a little stick right there. So it's starting to get a little bit more technical than it was earlier. And I will say, man, here in a little bit down this trail, I had this bike in third gear, and it was just so happy hanging out right there. Like, it would bog down low and lug, and it'd be able to pull back out of it. Like right here, I'm in third gear, clipping along at a good pace, slowing down to take corners and go between trees, but not having to shift out of it. And I was just, while this was going on, I'm just like, man, this is so nice. I'm not tired. I'm not worried about what gear it's in. I'm not having to clutch it a bunch and shift up and down and all that. And I was very aware of it through this section, just how nice it is compared to my old bike. And so I will say that I don't have any experience riding the EX models or the XC models that have the different gear ratio in them. So I don't know how they compare, or if you can really tell a big difference. But I know this EC model is just, I'm loving it. So I don't see myself making any adjustments to the sprockets right now. It's working for me. So I dig that. And I don't mind modifying things and changing parts and doing all that, but I think there is something to be said for just keeping things the way they were from the factory. I mean, these guys put a lot of time and money and effort into trying to make the best bike that they can, and factory parts aren't always the best, but factory parts are actually pretty dang good. There's some things that, in my opinion, need to be added to the bike. Like, I'm a big radiator guard supporter, and that is specifically because I've bent a lot of radiators from not having guards on. So I think it's definitely worth the upfront cost of buying guards, so that you don't have to get bent radiators and then stuff doesn't fit right, your plastics get screwed up, and I don't know, it's just, I've been a big believer in that, and it would be nice to see the factory put it on there, but I realize they don't really have to, and I'm not gonna go down that road of saying that they should. So I am getting close to the end of this trail to the destination where I was going to turn around and come back. So I think I'm rolling at about 22 minutes here, so I'll probably cut the ride back home. I took the same trail, just turned around and came back. But super rad trail, good one to rip out to real quick and get 30 or 40 miles in. I didn't clock it, so I can't remember how far the actual distance is, but this drops you down onto the North Fork of the Coeur d'Alene River, and there's actually a bunch of riding out beyond this, but I did not feel like continuing on. I had things going on this day and just wanted to turn around and come back, so I was able to get in an hour and a half or so. This is kind of my favorite part of this whole trail. So we're headed down. It's fairly steep right here, and you can see that the trail is skinny and it's very steep off to the sides of it. It's a great spot for just working on your balance, working on your bike control. There's a lot of rocks, a lot of ruts, just a lot going on here. So again, bike's handling great. Just pick a gear and let her roll, and keep your feet tucked in, that's for sure. There's lots of stuff hanging off the sides of the trails here that want to snag your feet, so it's a good reminder to keep your toes pointed in and watch out on the side of the trail. So GoPro never does it justice. This is a fairly steep descent, and like I said, there's lots of things that are trying to knock you off your path, but beautiful country we live in. I love riding out here. I can't believe that it's still green out here, to be honest with you. It's been so dry all summer, but still nice out here. We did get some rain here like a week or so ago, so I'm guessing that probably helped a little bit, but it's been a good ride. I appreciate you guys checking this video out, and if this is something that you're digging, give me some ideas in the comments. Give me some topics to talk about, and as soon as the weather cools off, which I think it's going to soon, and we start getting some rain and stuff, I will keep going to some different places and there's some new trails and some cool spots that I know of that I just haven't had time to get out to. But I'm looking forward to doing that, taking you guys along with me, and just checking this thing out. So here I am, I'm popping out on the road. So that's it. Went down here just a little ways and pulled over for a second, called it good, and headed on back. So thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. Take care.